Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Sovereign Goddess podcast. Conversations with medicine women, female entrepreneurs, and paradigm shifters alike that are here to help women reclaim their sovereignty as they build their queendom with grace. I'm so excited to have with me, I'm so excited to have Rachael Webb here with me. This is like, I've been waiting for this, so I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. So Rachael Webb is a spiritual business advisor, a sacred rebel, and a galactic being of light behind Soulstar Medicine. She's here to help support sovereign spiritual leaders, and her mission is to help bring those entrepreneurs and creatives to find clarity and the courage to let their magic out. She's the founder of the Energetics of Instagram course, and she believes in the power of community to create social change. Yes, sister. I'm so excited. So before we go any further, I literally would not be able to be like standing here, speaking here, like living my truth if it weren't for this goddess right here. Like, I'm living proof of her Energetics of Instagram course. And, you know, that was like my permission for me to come out and share my light. And it's been a really wild, 5 months now since June, right?
Yeah.
Holy shift. Straight up. So I'm just like so blessed and so honored to have this, like my soul sister here on so many levels. Rachael Webb is in the house. Thank you, sister.
Oh, thank you, Sabrina. Such an honor to be here with you and with everyone that you touch.
Bless your heart. Okay, so I want to start off with sharing about your medicine. So if you can share with us your medicine and what is, from your story, what's really inspiring you at this very moment.
Well, it's just like I just got off of my phone making an Instagram post about sisterhood. That is what is really fresh for me in my mind right now and in my heart is the power of our connections as women and really like rewriting a lot of the old paradigms around, you know, like all of these things around competition and comparison and jealousy and judgment and how we can all be mirrors and reminders to each other to soften and open more deeply, even in those times where, you know, we feel constriction. You know, there's been a lot of stuff coming up. You know, we're sitting here a week and 2 days after the election, and there's a ton of stuff that's coming up for everybody. I feel like we're all like hoisting up the rug, being like, okay, what's underneath there? We're gonna clean all that shit out right now. And so
yes, yes.
Yeah, and that brings up old stuff, right? It's like whenever like things are like coming up in our face, we're like, oh my God, I haven't like wanted to look at that, and now it's here in front of me, and it's like messy and shadow stuff and everything. And I feel like that, and this is so appropriate too with like all the things that are happening around Standing Rock. You know, it's like our Native American brothers and sisters teach us about the beauty way, and I feel like that's something that as women we have the honor and the privilege of holding that vibration of beauty for one another and to remind each other to open and soften, even as we're in the shadows, even as we're in the muck, even as we're feeling all of the feels, you know, that it's like we can still be in all of that and live in the beauty of that vulnerability for one another and be reminders of how beautiful it is when we live with our hearts open, even when we're sad, even when we're angry, even when we feel betrayed. It's just like being, not hiding any of it, but just reminding ourselves and each other that that is beautiful too.
Yeah, and it's so funny, right? When you just said that last thing, like watching your screen, it just lit up. Like beacon of light coming through as you're sharing this message. And I think what you've said is so relevant even into my life. Like, this is the first thing that I've done since the election, really, because a lot of my stuff has been coming up too. And it was like, we've had the 11/11 portal. We had this like powerful supermoon. So it literally was like, you are clearing all your shit out, girl. Like, enough of this. Like, this is a 9-year. This is a year of completion. And we're going into new beginnings next year. So you better cut the shit out now. Like, stop holding that shit. Stop putting those things that are holding you back. Connect with one another. No, you're not alone. Ask for help. Like, what this whole election result process, everything, all of it has really allowed us to get back to basics. You know, like, we've been so caught up in the cosmos and like, oh, manifesting, which is all great, but now it's time to take action. And it's like, we have planted the seeds and we've put it out into the universe, but it's like, now you got to show the universe that you are walking the talk and that you are really doing what you said you are here to do. Like, there's no more playing small. And as women, you know, like, so many women thought that Hillary was going to be the one that was going to save us all. But this whole opportunity has allowed us to shift out of that paradigm, because the old paradigm was idolizing one specific person. And now it's like, no, we're in a new wave here. This is about a unity consciousness. This is a 5D consciousness. This is what the Christ consciousness is all about. It's like finding that within all of us, because all of us together are mirrors of each other, as you're saying, with the shadows. Like, if you have someone like stirring up something within you that's like they're doing it to you, that's happening for you to wake up. And so, I mean, it's been, you know, being a woman up until recently, it's been hard in recent years, you know, like trying to compare yourself to what the magazines say and comparing yourself to what media says and what's beautiful. And like you saying this beauty way, it's like us finding beauty with authenticity and with grace and with sovereignty and being real. That's how we're waking up to the beauty that has been waiting for us to recognize and to realize. This is all about self-realization.
Totally. Yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. I think it's and I think that, you know, the real invitation is to turn within, right? You know, it's to come back to self-love. You know, like that, I feel like that's been a huge anchor for me as I've been trying to navigate all this stuff coming up, and yeah, it's, you know, and that's what I feel like, that's what is such a wonderful thing about being a woman. It's like that, you know, there are tons of wonderful, luxurious, amazing self-care practices that we get to partake in. And not that men don't either, but, you know, that's their choice if they do, but it's more of an availability to us. And yeah, and I feel like that is the salve right now, is community and self-love. That's really coming up for all of us.
Yeah, and I know, like, with you, I know you've been having this like rebirthing phase right now, as have I. Like I said, like, this being my first time like stepping out and like getting back, like, you know, for the past week or so, I've been really like hermiting and like going within and nurturing. And I've realized as I'm building my business, you know, like, I put my self-care practices on the back burner. Like, things that I do every day, I was like, oh, I'll get to it. Oh, I'll get to it. Oh, I'll get to it. And then I never got to it And then things were just piled on top of, on top of, on top of, on top of. And then I had to have a breakthrough because it was like, yo, bitch, you ain't taking care of yourself. Like, wake up, you know? Like, if you're not, and I think like this is something I'm sure you love to talk about with a lot of the women that entrepreneurs that you help. It's like, if you're not taking care of your needs first, especially when you're in this spiritual work, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. I don't want to say failure, but you're setting yourself up for a disaster. So what has it been for you to like get back to your rituals, or what are some of your favorite rituals that you've been doing to help you feel fulfilled and help you feel realigned? Because you're rising from the phoenix right now and you're coming out stronger than ever and more beautiful than ever before. So it's like, what are the things that you're doing to help you realign with your highest self?
Yeah. I made an entirely new altar space.
Me too. It's the best feeling.
Yes, totally.
Oh my God.
And it's so funny because in the process of making it, like I realized that I had never actually like bought a single piece of furniture that would be my altar. It was like the top of a bookshelf or like something like a coffee table that was like, you know, not being used or whatever, but I like went out and like specifically found this table and everything on it was like specifically for this purpose only. And how has
that been? Like, how has that vibration been since you've taken action to go out and like create and like honor this sacred space?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been so empowering, and it's like, I feel like I have like literally, you know, you talk about in processes of manifestation where it's like you create like, you can create a vision board or you can create a manifestation box where you like put in things that you're manifesting to like literally hold space for yourself, whether it's like space on a piece of paper or space inside of an object. But it's like to have like an entire area just dedicated to your spiritual practice, like, you know, that's not for anything else, because I've had those places, but I've also used them for other things as well. So yeah, it feels really empowering. And also one of the things that came up in the Sacred Council was that we decided to make altars to ourselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so that was something that was super healing, because that was like right after, you know, the thing that happened in my relationship that just kind of blew the lid off of everything. And so I had to return to myself and I had to return to my self-love. And so creating this space, and also like not kidding, like printing out photos of myself and like putting them on my altar.
Yes, work it, girl. Yes.
Yeah. I remember like when I've seen a few people. I know I saw Gabby Bernstein do it and some other people, and I was like, oh my God, like she's so self-absorbed. But then I did it, and because I had just gotten a photo shoot done and they sent the proofs, and so I had actual like pictures that were nice like photos, and so I used those and just laid them out on my altar, and I was like, oh my God, this feels amazing.
Honoring the goddess, right?
Yeah, that, and I've been taking tons of hot baths and going to the spa and getting massages, and also just like really listening to my intuition. You know, it's like someone posted on Facebook about a moonlight hike to Haleakala through the crater, and I was like, I'm going. Like, I had no idea it was a 12-mile hike.
Superstar.
I was like so sore the next day. I couldn't even move, you know?
Yeah, so much stagnant energy stuck in the body that really moved.
And that was like, yeah, and that was the huge wake-up call to be like, okay, so my body is this multidimensional receptor to cosmic energy, and I haven't been allowing it. I haven't been like, you know, oiling it and like starting it every so often. Like I haven't been like, you know, really using it in such a way. And so like that is really, really important. So that was like, I was like, okay, wake up call heard. You don't have to yell at me anymore. I got the message.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's the shaking before the awakening. And it's like, as you know, modern priestesses, and I like to call myself an Aquarian priestess because I'm part of this age, and it's having the tools to navigate through this time and space right now. And I think a lot of what you're saying, a lot of what's coming up right now is like that self-love. And it's really like when you get to know you and what resonates with you, and you don't care about like anyone else, and you honor your body, because like so many of us, you know, we can travel through different dimensions, like if we really want to. Like I had a shaman that told me that I was stuck in dimensions and that I needed to be brought back in. And it's like, we've been brought here right now to honor our bodies. We chose these bodies for a reason. We chose the experience, part of our Akashic records, for a reason. We chose the families we're in, and we're in these situations because we have the magic within us, the power within us to really shift and be the alchemist. And part of being that alchemist is being that alchemist in our own lives first. So it's like, what are the things in our life that need to be turned to love, right? And what are the things, what are our actions, what are our behaviors that can be more centered on love? And what I love, what I love that you're doing, you know, with your Energetics of Instagram course and your hashtag Magic Tribe, is that you are really bringing these powerful sovereign women together to support one another as we navigate through this time and space. And I think like, it's so funny. It's like sisterhood's like sounding like the theme of, you know, this conversation. I had no idea where I was going to lead, but it sounds like it's sisterhood and community. And I know that like a lot of the women that I'm connected to now is through like your Magic Tribe, and being part of the Energetics of Instagram course, and being a Mermaid Tribe for life, and allowing myself to go into the depths of my soul, to really dive in deep and heal those wounds from past lives, from the ancestral wounds, the collective unconscious that's been permeated in my being, allowing myself to really honor and be gentle with myself during all of this opportunity, really, to go out there and be me fully. And so it's like, how have you seen, since you've started the Energetics of Instagram course, how have you seen feminine leadership rising?
Well, it's just, I see so much more collaboration, you know.
Beautiful.
It's like, you know, I think of Brandy Littles and Faye Wilder did the Light Dancer Festival.
Oh, I was part of that.
Yes, I know.
I like danced like in my panties, like showing about vulnerability. And
Yeah.
I danced to telepop music, Just Breathe, which is tattooed on my arm. And it's like, just believe, you know, just breathe. And it's like, we're going to get through this. But yeah, so that collaboration was great. What else have you been like witnessing though from that?
Yeah, and then Brandy did another collaboration with Madison, and that was their 30 Days of Gratitude that they just did. And really just seeing like seeing the connections, you know, that have continued to come from those classes, and it's like, and continuing to share about, like, I think that's an important piece, is to continue to educate your community about the community itself. And you know, just like I made a post the other day, just like sharing again like what Magic Tribe is, and there were so many people who I was like, I thought that they knew, and they were like, oh wow, yeah, this is awesome, I'm totally gonna start using this hashtag. And like that's something that I see as well, where it's like this idea, we have all these little voices in our head, and it's like this idea that, oh well, I don't want to talk about that because everybody already knows about that. And that you never know, like you never know who that's gonna reach. Let's see, what else am I feel like that there's a lot of stuff coming up right now, like a lot of like what we would call like not so cool stuff, right? And we're still in this space of going back through kind of with a fine-tooth comb around cleaning up the stuff around how we relate to one another as women. And I was just on a walk with one of my friends here in Maui the other day, and we had been at a singing workshop the night before, and there were a lot of women there. And she was sharing about how she was feeling that things were coming up for her around being around so many women, and that she had a particular sister in her life who she didn't have the best communication with, and that being around so many women was like triggering for her. And so it's like, as healed as we might think that we are from that type of insecurity that comes up in groups of women, and I feel like this is again like going back, I feel like so much of this is going back to the times and the traumas that we all endured from the witch hunts. And that it's, because it wasn't, the time of the witch hunts wasn't just the patriarchy like picking off women, magical women specifically. The way that it really broke down the sisterhood was because of the insidious nature of self-protection. And it's like, well, she just got like, she just got hauled away. And so I want to make sure that I don't get hauled away. So, I might say that, oh, it's this other woman over there if they feel like that they're not satisfied with who they got. Or that it's like, if you felt like that someone was looking at your husband wrong, like all you had to do was like say the right thing to the right person, and then she wasn't a problem anymore. And
totally.
that is how we lost our power because of that. It's like, and I feel like too, it's so much that's coming up right now is like, keep your eyes on what's really important. Stay focused,
Diana coming through.
Yeah, that it's like, it reminds me of that scene in the end of the second Hunger Games where, she's like so filled with rage, and she's like, pulling up her arrow and she wants to shoot him. But he says to her, remember who the real enemy is. And so then she lifts the arrow and fires it up into
the dome.
Yeah. And so like that is what came up when in one of my posts where I shared about like, I had created this, you can kind of see it there, the little feather fan, and then I painted my face, and I felt like it was to me, I was like a galactic Native American. I was like representing the Star Nation. I wasn't trying to mimic any of our like, Lakota or Sioux brothers and sisters. It was, and I got like really grilled about cultural appropriation. You saw those things.
Oh, totally. And it's really interesting. Well, I was laughing earlier because I thought it'd be appropriate to pull from the mermaid deck because I was a mermaid, and I pulled the protection card, and we're talking about like the protection. So that's why I laughed at that. But, saying what you're saying right now, like I grew up in Palm Springs, and my school mascot was the Indians. Like majority of this town is built on native land, and that's why I'm so passionate about spreading the information about Standing Rock and what's happening with the Dakota Access Pipeline, like taking the action steps by pulling all my money out of Wells Fargo and like coming together in community and educating people about like white buffalo calf women and the cast. So yes, I get that. But with the cultural appropriation, like being appropriate, it's like when I was in high school, there was a kid in my high school that didn't like that there was feathers on the Indian because his tribe wasn't the tribe that was being associated, and they ended up getting rid of every single image of an Indian at my school. Even though the tribe, our local tribe here, like donates a ton of money, all of the students go there, and it's been that whole PC kind of thing where it's like people are offended. And I think the biggest thing too is like intention. You know, what is the intention behind it? Like when you see like a girl like in a slutty Indian costume with a full headdress, headdress, you know, on Halloween, who's just doing it for looks, versus someone who's saying prayer and connecting. And I think that's been like a really hard thing for us to navigate too, is because like your intention was clear. I know I spoke up about it because it bugged me. You know, it's something that I'm working through but as people are sensitive in that way too, I think a lot of it has to do with intention. And your intention was pure. Your intention was to stand up and you knew what was right in your heart. So it's like really challenging sometimes for us to go out there and speak our truth and speak our light while still trying to not offend people in a way. You know, and I think a lot of that has to do with the level of awareness. And if it's really hard, if you're trying to portray like a message of empowerment and of love and of light and of community and of support, and there's someone who's not at that same level of awareness and they're just on the defense. When we're doing our best to honor the sacred, you know, like what you were doing was honoring the sacred in the way that felt right to you. That was you being vulnerable. That was you being real. That was you being authentic. And then you have someone throw at you like a curveball of criticism. And it's like, you have to stop and just say thank you, right? And you have to come from that space of forgiveness. Because if we hold on to those resentments, we're not going to heal these ancestral wounds. We're just going to be continuously going back other than making progress.
Yeah, well, and I think too, it's like to not even, and I'm like, you know, in my I feel like my comments, my responses got better and better as I dealt with more and more of it. But it was like, not like, don't get caught up, because that's the same thing that happened with the witch hunts, right? And like the insidious fumbling of the sisterhood from the inside was because it's like, you know, like against one another. And so it's like, let's keep in mind the broader vision of that we're trying to raise awareness and support for Standing Rock, and not get caught up in these little things about like, oh, well, you're doing this wrong and you're doing this wrong and whatever. And it's like, and so you have to get really good at the emotional aikido of it, where it's like, you're like, okay, so thank you so much for your, you know, for your devotion and your respect for our Native peoples, and use that passion to direct that to calling your representatives, going to Standing Rock, pulling your money out, you know, whatever that looks like stay as people who are speaking up about the things that are real for us. We can't get caught up, because it's like, it's a sticky thing. It's so
mundane compared to what the bigger thing is that we're standing up for. Like it's so petty, because that like feeling of combat, or that feeling of us against them, you know, like, and it's a different motif, kind of same energy, but like it's a different character kind of thing. And I mean, I led a ceremony, a water ceremony and a meditation like a couple weeks ago called Honor the Sacred for Standing Rock. And the biggest thing that I like to point out too is that praying for not just our brothers and the water protectors, but praying for the cops on the other side, praying for our government to open their hearts. Because that is like taking the intention to the next highest benevolent level. Because as soon as you're separating that idea of us versus them, you're missing the whole piece. This year has been like in Kundalini Yoga, the sutra, so it's like the spiritual law of this year is understand through compassion or you'll misunderstand the times. And so understanding that there's compassion for those people on the other side, understanding to give compassion to the major bankers, understanding to give compassion to our brothers and sisters who are just like you and me, who are still hurting. You know, that person's probably hurting in a way, and this is the way they're expressing themselves. And praying that the highest benevolence of their own soul, of their own heart, awakens and does the proper action to really make some powerful change and make an impact that doesn't support pettiness, but that supports change, like real, authentic change. And so that's something that I feel like we need to remember as humans too, because everyone's hurting on some level or another. Like everyone has wounds. We're all a little wounded. We're all whole. But those are the parts of us that are our shadow work that we need to get through. Those are the opportunities for us to welcome in the light. That's the chance for us to really be gentle and allow grace to take the lead. And that's what this whole thing is about, grace, you know, and this whole thing is about faith. And this whole thing is about honoring Gaia by being present and honoring our lives and respecting our lives for what it is in this very moment, to slow down and to appreciate the little things. Like I've been watching a lot of what's going on with Standing Rock through not your CNN, not all those Piscean old paradigm news channels, but I'm listening to, I've had friends on the front line. I have had people that I follow on Instagram on the front line. I'm listening to alternative media like Democracy Now! And the Young Turks, who are actually having reporters go out there, talk to the people, and get real stories. Because through storytelling is where we find that connection. And that's why storytelling has been, passed down for generations and generations. That's before there was internet, before there was, books. It was about gathering together in sisterhood and brotherhood and community and sharing stories. And that's where we're getting back to that basic. That's what I'm seeing. And I mean, I know you can probably feel the same way, but as a burner, going to Burning Man, that's my home. That's my tribe. It's no technology for 7+ days other than bomb-ass beats on the dance floor and having your microphones for your speakers and the lights that are lighting it up. Those are your technology. But then there's human interaction. But then there's radical self-expression. But then there's being involved. But then there's also healing by going to the temple. By then, there's also coming together, burning the man, burning away the illusions, burning away what isn't here. There's so much expression and creativity and vulnerability and honesty in gatherings like that. And I know that makes me, I feel so blessed to be part of this community. And I feel so blessed to be able to have those experiences, because I'm able to come back into this, what we burners like to call the default world, and seeing how people from all over the world can live in a freaking desert for a week, have peace, have community, have unionship, have tears, joy, laughter, all the expressions of the human experience, because we are so present.
Yeah, that's, being present, I feel is one of the biggest things that we can do for one another. It's that whether you're reading someone's Instagram post, like that's you being present with them, like really spending the time to just sit and read their post, or it's like sitting and like really listening to someone in a conversation, or whether you're digitally connected or sitting, eye to eye, nose to nose. And but that presence, and that's where I feel like too, it's that in integrity is such a huge piece. And that's where the sovereignty comes in, because it's when you are fully present with someone, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You know, it's like you're just listening and you're receiving, and then you're able to respond from your heart and participate fully in the conversation. And that's one of the most healing things that you could do, is just to be present with someone and not try to help them or fix them or whatever.
People want to be heard.
Yeah, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. And that's you, like, being really clear in your integrity, where it's like, you know, we're not trying to like multitask doing 2 things at the same time or 5 things at the same time, even with our presence with someone, right? So, I mean, like, the modern world provides us with many challenges about how we can practice mindfulness over and over and over. But I feel like that every moment that you decide to not check your phone while you're listening to your friend or, you know, whatever. I know I'm like really guilty of like checking my phone while I'm talking to my mom, but it's like allowing yourself to be fully present, like making those choices. That's like you stepping into your sovereignty, because every time you make a choice and you're not just defaulting into, you know, whatever is happening around you. It's like one of my favorite quotes is from the book Essentialism, and it's that, I won't get it totally right, but it's like, if you don't choose the way you want your life to be, then someone else is going to choose for you.
Yep.
And so that's what we all just got, this huge wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of people, you know, who were like, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to vote. And like, I'm glad that they didn't vote, because that meant that we had this huge wake up call.
And that's them reclaiming their power back, because a lot of those people couldn't vote for either of those 2 candidates because they knew who they were and they knew what's right reigns for them to be true. And it's like, you can't be, majority of people didn't vote for a president. Like 49.7% of people didn't vote for president. That's a lot. That's saying something, that it's like people want change, but the way society has, especially over recent years with, you know, the advancement of social media and having iPhones and all this stuff, it's been more of a challenge to be fully present with someone. Like being in a restaurant family, you know, in my family's restaurant, the amount of people that sit at a table together and are just looking at their phones the whole time rather than communication, it's disgusting. It makes me so sad, because I think that's a huge part of what's happened in this country, is that we used to all grow up eating around the table together. We used to all grow up like playing outside and like, you know, not being distracted by our massive computers and floppy disks that we used to have. Like, we didn't have phones there, you know? It was like the coolest thing was having Snake on your Nokia, and it was like, oh shit, like this is like game changer right now. And like now it's like, you know, we're doing photo editing on Instagram, or we're making flyers on our iPhones, and it's like it's really pulled us. And I think, you know, you being the spiritual business advisor, and even me doing this like entrepreneur ride, I think the biggest thing for entrepreneurs is finding that balance of being disconnected from our technology so that we can reconnect with our souls. And I think a lot of us have been feeling that rat race of like, oh, I need to make it big, and so I need to do this, I need to post this, I need to do this, I need to do this. But then if you're completely neglecting the latter of taking care of you and allowing your time to meditate, allowing your time to reflect, you're not going to be able to be the superstar that is destined for you to be.
Well, I think there's a common ground, like a middle ground to be in it, because it's like, I know that I actually really love hanging out with other people who are also really active on social media, because it's like, we both get it, like, you know, or we all get it. And it's like, I remember, you know, when I first started doing moon circles, everyone who was in the moon circle was also friends on Instagram, or they were like becoming friends on Instagram. And it wasn't like we created this space where it's like no phones allowed. And we weren't like on our phones the whole time, but it's like it creates, if you can like make friends with the technology, it actually creates this like multi-dimensional experience that you have while you are sitting with someone in person.
And but I'm going to interrupt with that, because it's like your intention is different. Some people are going to their phones just to tune out. Mm-hmm. Some people are going to their phones just to like not be present. They're avoiding something. Like, and that's, again, everything's intentionally based. If you're going out there and you're in these moon circles and you're connecting with women and they're sharing your stuff and you're sharing that stuff, that is part of that multidimensional higher level thing of connecting to that cosmic web that we're around. But unfortunately, a lot of our culture doesn't do that. You know, that's what I feel like is going to be part of this next paradigm shift too.
Well, and I think that comes with the rewriting of our connection to social media, you know, because I know for me, it's like, you know, and you know this because you took the class, it's like my Instagram is my art space.
Amen. You know? It's the way you express yourself, and it's the way you share your mission.
Yeah. And so there's actually like deep healing that comes through me sitting down and writing an Instagram post and finding the right words and stepping into that channeled state. Like that gives me, I've learned so much about myself, and I've grown so much by having the reflective space of Instagram. And for me, it's like the meditative art of using 5 different apps to edit a photo is such a deep, powerful practice of creativity, and that it's a way in which I get to express myself. I get to dress up as different parts of myself through editing photos, and like I get to see different aspects of myself emerging, and I'm meeting those people's personalities that live inside of me for the first time. And it's just, especially like, you know, with all of the emotional upheaval in my life right now, it's been an absolutely essential tool for me to help reflect and understand about like, what is it that's, I feel like that actually, it's really interesting, it's just coming to me. I feel like that by using social media as it's almost kind of like, so I'm just getting this image of a spider web, but it's not sticky. You know, it's almost kind of like a trampoline, and you can like lean into it and then you bounce back. And like that's what happens when you can like lean in, and like when you lean in, that's when you're like writing about something that is really vulnerable and really scary. And then you lean in from that, and then you bounce back, and the like perspective that you get to see on your experience from that leaning in is what allows you to understand yourself more, to witness yourself more, because being able to like witness yourself is that's you being able to step outside. Because in the same way that we have like people making, you know, I won't say inappropriate, but like agitated comments on Instagram, we're making agitated comments about ourselves inside. But it's like when you have the opportunity to share vulnerably and then stand back and look at it by leaning into that web and then bouncing back from it, then you get this higher perspective. You get this more illuminated view of what's really going on inside of you. And that's where this like real learning and healing and like self-acceptance can come in. And that's when you can lean in, like you almost like, in order to, you know, they say the only way the only way out is through.
Mm-hmm.
When you like lean in to your emotions and to whatever is coming up for you by sharing it on social media, creating artwork, writing about it, and then having that that sends you back, that allows you to get the perspective, that's where you can actually see the matrix.
Amen. Yes. Preach it, sister. Yes.
Yeah, because
Totally.
that's where you get to see like, oh, these comments they're like quicksand, you know, or like this inner dialogue about I shouldn't share that because everybody already knows that. That's the quicksand. But it's like anytime that you feel something coming up that's like, oh my God, I know I have to share about this, but it's really intense and it's really vulnerable and I've got to be like really kind of careful about how I share about this. That's when you get to see that's when you get to see the mistakes. Like, you know, it was by writing an Instagram post that I was able to receive the information that I shared with you guys on Periscope about how to send the prayers in the water ceremony through the water molecules, you know, like that was a download that came while I was writing a post on Instagram.
So awesome. I know, because it's like you're finally getting it out of your head. And it's like, I know, like when I came into your Energetics of Instagram course, I was still working through a really, really debilitating PTSD from like being out there and sharing my magic, sharing my medicine, because when I was a music journalist 4 years ago, and even me saying this right now is like me being vulnerable to like express it. But when I was in 4 years ago, when I was a music journalist, you know, I had a really challenging LSD experience, that massive ego death, didn't know how to handle it. But I felt love for the first time. And I felt at that moment like, wow, I want to share this feeling anywhere I can and infuse it and be the alchemist in any situation possible to help change the planet. Like, if this is for me, like I'm here to share this too. And so I had a whole year, like in 2012, I had a whole year where I'd be going to festivals and like doing shamanism on the dance floor. My problem was, though, I was not grounded in myself. My intention was always of love, but it was also of like, it was more of like acting out, because I felt like I needed to defend and like even in A Course in Miracles, they say if you feel like you need to defend something, then you're missing what it's about, because there's no need for defense, because then there's that idea of separation. And it was like years of pain and grief and repression and not knowing myself, of being a people pleaser. Then like, you know, I got struck by lightning. I like fell off the face of the earth for 3 years, went to John of God, like went to Burning Man. And then I was like, this year, like I was like working on grieving earlier this year, I was working on grieving the passing of my grandmother, who died 6 hours after I sold my Burning Man ticket for last year. And my last conversation with her was about Burning Man and the temple, and how my friend was doing a whole ceremony for her, and she died 6 hours later. So this whole year was a grieving process. And then coming across you with the Energetics of Instagram, I was so afraid to share my face. I was so afraid of being me, and like, because I've seen how spirits worked through me, and I've seen the power of what happens when I'm so vested in the work and my mission and what I'm here to do and my dharma. But I wasn't ready for it. And then it was like taking that Energetic of Instagram course and me slowly starting to show face, me slowly starting to write vulnerability things about me. And I mean, like, up until like a few weeks ago, like I was working with Brandy Littles, you were talking about before, and she was like, you need to go out there and speak your truth. And at this year Burning Man, my throat chakra bowl shattered at the temple the day of the man burn. And I was like, oh fuck, like this is time for me to like really speak up. So now like I'm being more open about my use of psychedelics, and because it's something I believe in, and it's something that I want to help people. I want people to like especially the vets. Like, I believe we have the technology to help people and to help heal people and to like really get into those deep wounds. And it like was so afraid for me to like be vulnerable, and for me to, as a spiritual teacher, because comparing myself to the spiritual teachers of the generation before me, they were all sober, recent, like, you know, sober from cocaine and all these things. I've never touched cocaine in my life. I never had that kind of issue where, thank God, you know, but I was still ashamed. And like, you know, being a yogi, it was like, oh, don't be honest about like drugs are bad. And it's like, yeah, but when you're using intention for medicine and you're using intention for healing, like, they're way more healthy than those freaking pharmaceuticals they're passing out like it's candy. And so I wanted to thank you, you know, for holding space and for creating this like magic tribe sisterhood too, where I can go out and be vulnerable. Like, I have never been as vulnerable as I have in the past 6 weeks, you know, of like, well, even I guess the kicker was me dancing around in my panties for the light dancer festival. But then it was like me, you know, last week, Thursday, the 11/11 portal rocked me to the fucking core. And it was like, I took a photo of me mid-tears. And I said, like, why? Like, all this, like, shit, all this shadow work, something that I am so passionate about helping people get through, was like, why? And it was, like, having that sisterhood of, like, supporting me and letting me know, like, girl, you'll get through this. And, like, girl, like, don't worry about it. Like, you're light, you know? And, like, I've been so vulnerable and so this past week, you know, and it's been like, I'm so grateful for the people and the sisters that I've met, you know, like through you and through social media and through Instagram and other paradigm shifters. And, you know, I think a lot of that pain too for me was doing so much work with Standing Rock, because I'm, you know, stepping up and saying, I want to teach people about water ceremony. I want to teach people that your money is energy and you need to pull your account. And I like fully posted on Facebook Live, like sitting in front of Wells Fargo, like I pulled my money out, like crying because I want people to wake up, you know, and taking those action steps. And so me being vulnerable with that, me like channeling White Buffalo Calf Woman, me doing all this stuff, like I'm too, like I was doing 4 years ago, I'm clearing the shit of the collective. Because there's no separation. And it's like, there's a reason why all of this is, I'm catching this as part of my consciousness. There's a reason why all of this is part of my human experience, that I can look back 5 years from now and be like, holy shit, like I was chosen by spirit to do this. And I chose to be proactive and go for it because I'm understanding what's important. And it's been so cool to watch you really get back to the elements and really like honor the water and honor air through our voice. Our words and our the way that we speak is air, and it's the fire within us that's fueling us to speak what it is. But it's also staying grounded in our truth and staying grounded in our being, so that our messages, our love, our light, our intention goes out to the ether and gets transformed. Because like when you were talking on Periscope about the water molecules being visualized to Standing Rock, I'm like, fuck yes, sister. She gets it. She sees it. She understands it. She's recognizing what the aha of the connected and the aha of what we can do when we are serving love and we are serving light. And we will be supported. But to be supported, you have to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, all of that came, I don't even remember what I was writing about. I could probably look at a photo and try and remember what I was writing about, but I was just like, that's where I was like, oh my God, I just found a loophole in the matrix.
Yeah. And it's like, I remember one of my psilocybin experiences I had, I went to bed. I partook in a little ceremony, and then I went to bed because I was exhausted. And so my dream space was me healing. And what it was me connecting to this web, the matrix. And I saw xenophobia. I healed it. I saw racism. I healed it. I saw homophobia. I healed it. I saw the separation of groups of people, healed it. But then it got to family. And I woke up in a panic, burned Palo Santo, had to take deep breaths, meditate. Because I was like, that's the next wound. That's the next wound to heal, is the ancestral karma. And that's like what we're seeing with Standing Rock, with the ancestors whose freaking land we're on, that people forget. We are seeing that with people from all different tribes coming together to come in ceremony and prayer. We're seeing that from people all over the world showing up in Standing Rock to come in solidarity for the water, because all of that is so mundane compared to the separation, I should say, is all mundane compared to what's really important. And I think this is part of that rainbow. This is why we're here as the Rainbow Tribe. We are here as indigo souls. We are here because we've been brought here to heal the planet. And by healing that, it's understanding and connecting to the ancestors of those leaders that have come before us and the ancestors of our past lives and the ascendant masters, and to release the pain of those people too that probably are stuck in this middle world, what like Christianity would love to call purgatory. They're stuck in that middle. Their souls want to be free, but there's still these souls that are stuck. And they want to be released because people still have anger and resentment for them other than forgiveness. So that's why I think blessing the water with forgiveness and compassion and love and truth are the strongest prayers we can really bless on these waters for Standing Rock and to honor the sacred. The spirit just like moves through me in a way I'm just like, that's what it is though. Like all of this is happening for us to honor the sacred of community, the sacred of nature, the sacred of our own souls, the sacredness of love, the sacredness of compassion. It's not about defending. We have to stop saying defending, and it's about honoring because it's such a higher vibration. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Aho to that.
Yeah. Aho.
So we're cutting out of time, but I want to ask a few questions. What is your spirit animal?
Well, it's more than one.
Depending on what costume she's wearing, right?
Yeah. Definitely the dragon.
Yes.
The dragon has been my guide for a long time. I have this one right here.
Yes, you've painted. Yeah. I love that you've been painting your statues. I love it.
Yeah, so the dragon is totally one of my spirit guides.
And it's so fitting for you because the dragon represents the union of heaven and earth. It's the snake meeting the eagle, and it's like so beautiful that and now you're honoring the earth, with Standing Rock. So I'm sure you're really connecting to that dragon spirit animal in you right now.
Yeah, that's he's a huge one that's coming up for me. And then of course we have the dolphins, the mermaids, and the unicorns. So all of those, and the jaguars. Like when we first did the energetics of Instagram, there was a jaguar tribe, and that was like one of my. Well, I can't say my first because I also have a deer. There's a lot of hummingbirds. A lot of guides. Since there's no hummingbirds in Hawaii, now the butterflies have taken their place. And
beautiful.
Yeah, and so yeah, I feel like there's a coterie of spirit guides that show up, and of course also my extraterrestrial guides. They're always with me, always speaking to me. And it was really interesting yesterday for the council. I asked them if they wanted to dress as their future selves, and there's no way I would ever say no to dressing up. So, and it was really interesting too, because I've been working with my future self for probably about 2.5 years now. And I was kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I've already dressed up as her before, like,
that's so awesome.
I don't know what I do different. But this is actually left over from that, where I'd made a Pinterest board for my future self, and I saw one of the women that I had a picture of had, some like tribal drawings in white on her skin. And so it was like right before the call, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to write light language. I don't even know. I've never written light language before. But yeah, I was like, I don't know what this says, but
but I'm running with it.
Yeah, I was totally connecting with this, extraterrestrial, parallel life that I have right now. And because I think it's like there's past lives and there's parallel experiences, and that, when we connect to our ancestors, that is us, right? Because we have been our ancestors, because of the past life coming through. And so as you honor and connect to your ancestors, you're honoring and connecting to you. And that is like the highest.
That.
Yeah, that's the highest honor that you can do for yourself, is to honor yourself in the same way that you would honor and respect your elders and your ancestors, because that was you. So that's more than spirit guides, but yeah.
Well, they're still spirit.
Yeah.
Who said that? And he's, we're all animals in some form or another.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite place to visit that fills you up?
Right now it is Big Beach, on the south side of Maui. It's an hour away from where I live, but I will totally drive an hour. I try to get over there once a week, because it's just like the water there is so soft, and the sand is so soft, and the water is so clear. And I studied marine biology for a little bit in college, and so I love diving down and connecting with all my fish friends and seeing all of the creatures and that I learned about. So yeah, that's the spot that's really nurturing and rejuvenating and healing for me right now. Yeah.
Beautiful. I need to go back to Hawaii. It's been a long time. Oh, I will. My best friend's from Hawaii too, and I just talked to him yesterday, and he's like, I'm going home. I'm like, Okay, so what is your mantra right now?
The word that's coming to my mind is softness.
Softness.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That it's like, how can I soften? I feel like I've just been getting grilled in a lot of different ways in parts of my life. And so it's like, how can I face this energy that I might interpret as, attacking or something like that? But it's like, people are just speaking their truth, it's like, and if I'm going to share my truth, I have to be witness to other people sharing their truth. And I have to soften into that. And I'm also like, as I'm softening into that experience that might be interpreted as difficult or traumatic in some way, I'm also really like, that is the stone that is sharpening the blade of my own clarity around what is important for me. And I feel like softness and sovereignty are my mantra right now.
Yeah, Matt Kahn, I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he wrote in my book, Sovereignty is your spirit animal. And I went crazy. I was like, oh my God, That's amazing. Okay, so 2 more questions. Where do you see the future of feminine leadership?
This is a really exciting question. I see. Yeah, because I have something that's like brewing in my Post-it notes over there that's about that. Even I feel like, I got into it with the Instagram class, and then I got into another layer with the Sacred Council, and then I'm getting into it with another layer with this thing that I'm building. But it's, and things are just coming to me now too, but it's reclaiming our roles as the weavers, because it's like we have this masculine built World Wide Web, right? But it's actually, that was, like Hedy Lamarr really helped to bring through the idea of the internet as well, but it's been like a very masculine dominated space for a long time, and to recognize that the internet is a reflection of the way in which women's hearts work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and to use it, to use it to connect to one another, to use it to build these overlapping circles. And that's where it's like the idea of like territorialism and like her stuff and my stuff and whatever. It's like, it's all got to go, it's like, I was sitting in ceremony a month ago, and I was seeing this symbol. It's similar to the seed of life.
That's exactly what I was seeing, the flower of life, as you're talking about that, of like,
but it's this, but it's not two-dimensional. It's actually like it comes out, but it has this like wave that's happening, and it's almost like that as the seed of life is creating the flower of life, it has that first original circle inside of it, and then that pops up and then creates the other circles that are almost like coming out, and then it creates another one that's coming out, and that creates another one that's coming out, and that creates.
So do you see it as like a steps, like a staircase?
But it's moving, so it's like waves.
Beautiful.
It is like steps, but then they move. There's an undulation to it that's happening. And so when I saw that in my vision, I heard the spirit of ayahuasca say that she's like, I'm hiding in the circles. And so I was like, okay, so this is the spirit of the Great Mother telling me that she's hiding in the circles, and that it's circles of women, and that it's these overlapping, interlinking circles that we're creating, whether it's like people are creating red tent circles, people are creating moon circles, all of the different circles, even in the energetics of Instagram, it's like, there's a lineage that's there now where it's like there's 3 generations of unicorns and 3 generations of mermaids and 3 generations of dragons, and all of them are also inside of the magic tribe. And and so it's these connections that we're weaving through the web, that's literally, and it's like that's how we can create, that's how we can build communities. And that's also how, like what I've experienced with Standing Rock, and with being able, like having created such a large community, and now being able to choose about what kind of information I transmit into that community. And that it's like I choose to transmit things about rising together in our sovereignty, about standing up for the people at Standing Rock, about, pulling money out, getting right with your money. It's like, I don't want to post about my latte and my croissants, Yeah,
it's like you're not basic anymore. It's like, yeah.
And so, So women using the web to build connection. That's also it's coming out of the multidimensional world and into the physical reality as well. So that's like, creating in-person circles as well, not just all being online. But really like that, the digital influence is what is anchoring in the ascension that's happening. It's like we talk about like the ascension process. It's literally like that you have to talk about getting your business off the ground, like moving into an online business. It's like that's part of the ascension process, I feel like. Yep. And so building these communities through multidimensional connection that's facilitated through women, through sisterhood, and using that space for social activism or for spiritual activism.
Yeah, spiritual activism all the way. Yes. I don't know. I like to call myself a spiritual activist. I actually like to call myself a spiritual rights activist.
There you go. Yes.
Standing up for what's right. Okay, so my last question is, what would you love to see unfold in your life in 2017?
Yay. In my life in 2017, I totally want to start doing things in person. It's like I want to welcome people to come to Maui and to create in-person ritual experiences. I want to have those water ceremonies in person at the ocean.
Oh, it's amazing.
I want to create so much. It's like I want to create circles where we sing together, circles where we sing to the water and we sing to the stars, and that helps us to remember more of ourselves because it's anchoring in. I feel like there's such a connection between the ocean and the stars that it's like by looking into the reflection of the water, you can actually see the stars in your hand. And it's like, in 2017, it's like, I'm so ready for love, it's like, I'm so ready to like, just have my heart blasted open through expanding, my community and through expanding my personal relationships and expanding my intimate relationships. I'm ready. Like, I'm so
yes, girl. Tell them.
Yes. More love, more like just, like heart blasted open. That's my intention.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to help any way I can to help keep that accountable for you and to like support you. I'm here for you, girl. So last thing, where can we find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Soulstar Medicine. I'm also on Periscope at Soulstar Medicine. I think there are a couple of Periscope accounts. I'm not sure if they deleted them yet. But it's the same. I try to make it have the same photo as my photo on Instagram so that people, and it's the one that has the most action happening on it. And over at soulstarmedicine.com.
And all of those links will also be in the information on this podcast. I could talk to you forever.
I know. Such a good connection.
Oh, I'm like so grateful, and I really pray that, this transmission allows people to open up and to connect with one another and to find their tribe. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, sister, for giving us all permission to reclaim our sovereignty, to be the light, to think outside of what we see and to connect to that deeper knowing that surrounds us. And thank you for being real and being authentic. I love you so much.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for creating this space. And thank you to everyone who is listening at any point. Time and space do not exist. We feel all of you with us right now. So thank you so much for being here.
I definitely went back and forth, like in and out to like, what is this? I've been transported back and forth, but it's all beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
sister. And thank you for your work. I love you.